Minnesota are at Denver next week. These are two teams that feel like they're slightly hyped at the moment, on the up. Josh Dobbs doing phenomenal things. Russell Wilson back, playing some of his best football in the last 3 or 4 years. Are you attacking this game? And if so, how are you attacking it?
Yeah, so in terms of Sunday night games, I feel like this is definitely better than some we've seen in recent weeks. We've had some pretty horrific ones. And Josh Dobbs absolutely makes things fun. He's averaging the third most quarterback rushing yards per game at 36.8. I think TJ Hawkinson has been fantastic. He has 68.1 yards per game as a complete volume hog. And the Broncos allow the second most tight end fantasy points. So I think, on the passing side, that's kind of exactly what you expect. Whether Jordan Addison can get back into the top 24 wide receivers after 2 straight games outside the top 28 remains to be seen. The Broncos, their defense has kind of been a tale of two halves. They were awful they were awful on defense over the first 5 weeks. They ranked 9th best over the past 5 weeks. So what do we see? Denver ranked 27th against wide receiver ones in DVOA, meaning that Jordan Addison, in theory, should have an okay matchup. But then the big question is, what do we see happening at running back with Alexander Mattison? Is he dealing with concussion, I believe? Ty Chandler went 15 for 45 and 1 touchdown in week 10. And I think that, you can get at this Broncos team. They've allowed the most fantasy points to running back. That's partly inflated by the 70-point game to Miami, but they've really struggled at times full stop against running backs. So, yeah, that feels completely straightforward. Cortland Sutton, his 7 touchdowns, like no other player on the team's got more than 3. I think he is clearly the red zone option. Jerry Jeudy only has 2 touchdowns on the season. So if you're looking at showdown, I would expect most people to err towards either Cortland Sutton or towards TJ Hawkinson as their captain choice. Javonte Williams, 24 touches per game over the last 3. It feels like they're really turning this offense over to him. Yes, P. Ryan and yes, Jaleel McLaughlin are going to mix in at times, but the Broncos have 1 rushing touchdown, and that was scored in week 2. They haven't been able to produce consistently on the ground in terms of picking up points, in terms of keeping drives going. So I would still expect it to be Cortland Sutton who leads the team in points in terms of red zone points of a bare minimum this week.
Yeah, and we saw Marvin Mims start to get more usage, start to play more snaps last week. He scored minus points 3 of the last 5 weeks. Totally over the last 5 weeks, he scored -1 fantasy points. Gary's asking over under 0 fantasy points. What do you think, Tom?
It's just really tricky, isn't it? I mean, Sean Payton said that he had a note in his notebook to get Marvin Mims more involved, and he's still never played 40% of the snaps. He's still never had more than 1 target in a game since, week 4? I really can't believe that it's going to happen for him. The play with Marvin Mims was always that one of Jeudy or Sutton got moved. And then when Greg Dulcich went down and you looked at what they had at tight end, it was like, okay, well, maybe they find a way to force more 3 wide receiver sets. But it just isn't Marvin Mims, like, for one reason or another. And I think, he's been droppable in redraft for weeks now. And if you're in a situation where you need to start Marvin Mims, I mean, next time I see you, I'll give you a hug because it sounds pretty bleak.